أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله من أول الدنيا إلى فنائها ومن الآخرة إلى بقائها الحمد لله على كل نعمة وأستغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه وهو أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغى وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. The topic that we have for tonight is the different terms that we have in Quran. One of them is khair, and how we should be in the service of the Imam, how quick has to be the response time in being in his service, and how frequent. So first of all, we understand what khair means. And then yusari'una fil khairat, that is those who are swift in doing and moving towards khair, and then in the service of the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, because that's what we see in the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, that all of his companions were in his service to the best of their ability, to the maximum ability of theirs. Now the term khair we have heard a lot in Arabic, in Urdu, in Farsi. So it means good. Like for example, when you wake up, you say Sabbahkum Allah bil khair or Sub bi khair Sabah al khair. So you intend good for that day. Or for example, when a child is born, again that same dua is there. For the spouse, the same thing. And then Shab bi khair, Safar bi khair, so on and so forth. So this khair, some see it in the form of wealth. Some they see it in the form of a child, some in the form of a spouse, job, car, etc. So khair, good. Now when we see Quran, we've got khair that has been mentioned quite a few times. For example, with reference to man, human being, Allah says وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. That is, he is very much enthusiastic and then for khair, for the good. Very strong attachment he has towards khair. That is, mankind at large. Wherever it is said there is good, then we will rush to do that good. Then, for example, in another ayah, the Almighty, He says, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. That God, all this khair and the good that you have descended, that you have, I'm in need of all of it. Or for example, there are other khair that have been mentioned, like Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He says, إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاتَّقُوهُ. That is, he said to his nation, worship Allah and then be God-wary. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. That is good for you, if you knew. Or for example, another ayah says, وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِلْأَبْرَارِ. That is, what is with Allah is good for the abrar, good for the virtuous, for the noble, for the good. Another ayah says, وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. If you want to know what khair is, Allah is all khair. And He is that khair and that good who will remain forever, who is eternal. So if you want goodness, if you want good, you get connected to God and you will be blessed with that khair, that endure eternity. Or وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Another ayah says akhirah, the hereafter, that is khair, وَأَبْقَى, and long lasting and eternal. Now even in the du'as that we recite on the day of Eid, and that is one of the best of du'as, we can have it every day in our qunuts, says وَأَن تُدْخِلَنِي فِي كُلِّ خَيْرٍ أَدْخَلْتَ فِيهِ مُحَمَّدًا وَآلَ مُحَمَّدٍ. We say that God, you make me enter into khair, every good that you made Muhammad and Ali Muhammad enter into that khair. I also want to be part of that khair. وأن تخرجني من كل سوء أخرجت منه محمدا وآل محمد. So, on the contrary, the opposite of khair is su that has been mentioned over here. So, enter me into all the good that you made Muhammad and Ali Muhammad enter. And oust me, remove me from all the bad that you have kept Muhammad and Ali Muhammad away from it. So that is khair. Now other applicables of khair that we see in the riwayat of Ma'sum, in ayat also, one of them states that كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةِ. Says it's been written upon you that someone who is on his deathbed or knows that he is to depart now, that he leaves behind khayran al-wasiyya, the best of wills he leaves behind. So wasiyya has been applied as khair over here. Or in the month of Ramadan says وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, you fast, khayrun lakum, good for you. Or when it comes to the attire of taqwa, being God-wary, says libasu taqwa dhalika khair, that is the attire of taqwa, that is good. Attire doesn't mean the clothing, no. That's one of the small applicables of it. That is, man, he has an attire of all the good and all the bad away from him. That look, or the first glance that you have towards an individual, you see, yes, the looks are pious, the looks are good, the features are good, the dress code is fine, it's dignified, it's honorable. So, kutiba alaykumul qital, or when it comes to jihad, there the Almighty says that kutiba alaykumul qital, that is, this qital and fight has been written for you, wa huwa kurhun lakum, it's bitter for you. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And many a times you find that things that are bitter, they are in fact good for you. وَأَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Like for example in these wars and battles, you do see that it's ugly, it's painful, it's all death and horror, burning down, killing down, devastations, blasts, etc. But ultimately Allah says it's good for you, because in that troublesome period that you went through in those battles and wars, although there was some mishap, but ultimately it's going to be good for you, because you learn and you make and you revive and you construct, so that is good. Khayrun lakum. Now there are other applicables of khair that have been mentioned in riwayat. For example, says best of people, who are they? Khayrun nas man nafa'an nas. That is, the best of people are those who are most beneficial of people. Now we have so many people, every kind of people, but you find some of them very beneficial, very positive. So that is khayrun nas that has been mentioned over here in this ayah. Or for example, another applicable says khayrun nas man tahammala ma'unatan nas, khayrun nas man yanfa'un nas fakun nafi'an lahum. Best of men is one who removes greed from his heart, and in obedience to the Almighty Allah, he fights his soul. That is what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. Khayrun nas man akhraja al-hirs. That is the greed and hirs that he has in his heart, he removes it, and that hawa that he has in his heart, he ousts it, and then he submits to the worship of God by fighting his soul. Now when we look into the ziyarat, for example, ziyarat, we say that in zukir al-khair kuntum awwalahu wa aslahu wa far'ahu wa ma'adinahu wa ma'wah. That is, when khair is mentioned, good is mentioned, you the imams, you are the first of them, you are the source of them, you are the branch of them, you are the treasure of them, you are the end of it, you are the limit of it. So you, that khair is you the imam. So that is another khair that we have. We have a khair in the glorious Quran, and that is the most important khair that we all have to give importance to it, wait for it, and are in waiting for it. And we ask Allah that we all are enlisted among the best of the servants of this khair. Baqiyatullah khayrun lakum in kuntum mu'mineen. Baqiyatullah is Imam al-Asr, the remnant of Allah, the representative of Allah, the reflection of Allah. Khayrun lakum is good for you. In kuntum mu'mineen, if you were believers. So this is khair in Quran. Now if you look into the funeral services that when we offer them, many a times, now we have 5 takbir in the funeral prayers, and in the last, in the 4th takbir, when we come and recite this dua, now when the body of a Muslim is brought, a mu'min is placed before you, many of them, they are very good, abrar, pious, someone who has been offering his prayers and all his wajibat were done, haram was away. At the same time, a body may be brought before you, you know that he never offered any prayers, any fasts, or any of the wajibat were not done, but still you still recite that prayer on him with the 5 takbir, with the same dua. And in the last dua we say, La na'lamu minhu illa khayra. Although we know that we never saw him pray. We saw him eat during the month of Ramadan, we never saw him pray. But still we say, Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayra. We know nothing but khayr from this person, O Lord. So that khayr means he is the follower of khayrul amal. Khayrul amal means Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam. That what is common between those who practice and those who do not practice from among the Shias, that what is common is that he believes in all the fundamentals, and the one who practices also believes in the fundamentals. He believes in Amirul Mu'mineen, and the title Khairul Amal was given to Amirul Mu'mineen by Rasulullah, and he also believes in Khairul Amal, being among the adherents and followers of Amirul Mu'mineen. So people, they came and asked Rasulullah, what is Khairul Amal, Ya Rasulullah? Rasulullah says, Khairul Amal is Ali. The best of actions, he is Ali. And it was a time therein people, they used to address Amirul Mu'mineen as Khairul Amal, that everyone who that had become a nickname of Amirul Mu'mineen in Medina as Khairul Amal. So when we say that Inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayra, in addition to the good that he may have had done, now this is someone who, for example, hasn't observed anything, but still we say La na'lamu minhu illa khayra. That is, we know nothing but khair from him, and that khair means that he was also among the adherents, among those who were attached to Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So, khair. So supporting Deen is one of the essential requirements of the Mu'mineen, and in particular supporting Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. Now when we sit and mourn for the days of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, that we want to get connected to the Imam. So the Imam of that time, Imam al-Asr in Karbala, is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein until the day of Ashura. Imam al-Asr after Ashura, it is Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. Imam al-Asr today is Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, wa ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Now when you see the ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, among them are the sons of al-Baneen. Al-Baneen is the wife of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam. She had 4 sons, and one is Abbas, and the second one is Abdullah, who is 20 years old. Abul Fazl Abbas is about 32 and 34 years. He is almost the same age as Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. So first is Abbas, the second is Abdullah, age is 20. Ja'far, he is 23 years old, and Uthman, he is around 18, 17 years old. And all of these 4 sons were martyred on the day of Ashura. Now, this Usman, also the fourth son of Amir al-Mu'mineen from al-Baneen, he was named after Usman bin Maz'un, the companions, the Prophet's companion. He was among those who the Prophet loved and adored a lot because he was a very noble man. So these four sons of al-Baneen, all four of them were sacrificed, were killed, were martyred on the day of Ashura. And the lineage of Abul Fazl al-Abbas that we have, it continued from his fourth son, even Abul Fazl al-Abbas. He has four sons and a daughter. Four sons, one is Fazl, the second is Ubaidullah or Abdullah, the third one is Hassan, the fourth is Qasim, and there is a daughter. The daughter's name is unknown. So the lineage of Abul Fazl al-Abbas, it continues through his son Abdullah bin Abul Fadl or Ubaidullah bin Abul Fadl. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam was sitting with his companions and a young child entered. Imam burst into tears, inquires, "Do you know who he is?" They said, "We don't know." Yabna Rasulullah. Imam says, "This is Ubaidullah bin Abul Fadl, a Mubarak lineage where most of the linguistics and the renowned poets in the Arab world are from this lineage of Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam." For Abul Fazl, Imam says, فَلَقَدْ آثَرُ وَأَبْلَى وَفَدَى أَخَاهُ بِنَفْسِهِ. He is someone who sacrificed himself, he passed all the divine tests, and he gave away his life for his brother Hussein. Also we find that for Abul Fazl al-Abbas, the topic is on the companions of Abu Abdullah and how swift and fast they were in serving the Imam. So says, "Inna lil Abbas inda Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala manzilatan yaghbituhu biha jami' ash-shuhada yawm al-qiyamah." Shaheed, a martyr, is someone, the first drop of his blood which falls from his body to the ground, Allah makes the heaven wajib on him, and his sins, they are all forgiven for that sacrifice that he gave. So the station that shuhada, now even among the shuhada there are grades and bands. Shaheed in the forefront, who dies by on the battlefront, in the forefront, he has different rules. There is no ghusl for him, there is no kafan for him, and he will be buried as he is, as it is. Now those who die behind the battlefront, they will be washed, they will be shrouded, and all other rituals will be performed. Now Shaheed, with all that lofty position that he has, now here Imam says, the rank Abul Fazl al-Abbas has been given is such that all of these shuhada who are already such lofty and such high, they will be amazed at seeing the rank that has been given to Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam. Now, what was so special in Hazrat Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam is that he was staunch, he was obedient, that Iman was to the max, and was extremely loyal to his Imam, that is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and prior to that even to Imam Mujtaba, and before that to his father Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now in Khutbah Sha'baniyya, Rasulullah, when he was reciting the khutbah, the last Friday of the month of Sha'ban, and then he comes to the point that this is the month wherein Ali, you will be killed, your beard, it will be drenched in your blood, and then you will be martyred, you will be killed in this month, in this sacred month. The first question Amir al-Mu'mineen asks is that, Afi salamatim min dini ya Rasulullah. Now this is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the chief of all the Mu'mineen. There is no one better than Amir al-Mu'mineen in Iman. He says, Afi salamatim min dini, that Ya Rasulullah, will my Iman and will my faith be safe the day when I die? So Iman is something that we have to work on, safeguarding it, protecting it at all times. And in this day and age that we are in, guarding Deen is very difficult. extremely difficult with all these fitnas, with all these traps that have been laid around us, and all the sins open before everyone. So we need a lot of support, we need a lot of help. One of them is by dua ghariq. A person comes to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam and says, Yabna Rasulullah, what do we do in such situations, such circumstances when protecting and safeguarding deen will be difficult? Imam says recite this dua as frequent as possible, especially by someone who is on a deathbed. Stand by him, keep this repeating, or even someone who is extremely ill. Repeat these simple things for them a lot. Ya Allahu, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Thabbit Qalbi ala Deenik. Now, deen has to be safe. Deen, what is special? Islam, now what is special in that? The challenges that are facing, what are the dangers, and how do we support? Now all these things they have to understand. That is that ma'rifah, we need to know Islam. When we talk about Islam, why Islam? What is special in Islam? Why not any other faith, any other deen? What are the challenges facing Islam? What are the dangers there? How do we support? Deen is fitri, meaning that deen is pure. Quran says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَتَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. So set your heart as a person of pure faith on this religion, the original nature. Fitri, it's that pure, that original nature. Endowed by Allah according to which He originated mankind. So that is that deen. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Many of the people, they don't know. So first, this deen that we have, it is firm, it is upright. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. It is firm, it is upright. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the Khawarij, they ruined the religion, and deen is not what we see today by Ibn Taymiyyah, which is being promoted by Hijaz. No, that is not deen. That is the deen that was fabricated and made in the UK. Deen that stems from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and deen which is propagated by the Imam alayhimus salam, that is deen. Deen has to be perfect. Which perfect? How perfect? Every deen? Any deen? No, not any deen. A deen which has ghadir in it. That is, al-yawm akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. Today, this day, I perfected your religion. I completed my favors, my blessings upon you. Wa raditu lakum al-islam deena. And I chose and approved Islam as your religion. So that Islam and that deen which was propagated by Rasulullah on the day of Ghadir is the Islam that we talk about. Now over here, the other thing we learn is that there is no compulsion in deen. La ikraha fi deen. There is no compulsion. Deen is simple. Ma ja'ala alaykum fi deenin min haraj. Very simple deen. Just a few things to be done, a few things not to be done. That is deen. And everything to be done is in our benefit. Everything not to be done is also in our benefit. So Allah, the designer of this deen, of humanity, of mankind, when we buy products, we've got an instructions manual in it. They say you have to use this product like that. If you do it this way, you will ruin it, you'll damage it. If you follow all these this way to how to use the product, you find that it works and works with no hiccups. And if there is a hiccup in it, there is some troubleshoot, which they say, you do it and then it will be fine again. The same thing is with mankind. If there is a creator who has created it, then there should be an instructions manual on how to use it. So He created us and He's made that instructions manual, which is the guidance in the form of a book, which is Quran, and then there is someone who tells you and teaches you how this manual has to be used. If you need help, you go to him, and that is that Imam alayhi salam that you get help from. Abul Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, the staunch companion of his Imam, he lost his hand, but he never gave away the support. He continued with his support. He says that I will support my deen. Now, that is Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam, and the companions that he had. One of the things that helps is that distancing from haram consumption, that also helps us in being better servants and among the supporters of the Imam. Abu al-Aswad Duali in Sham had a young daughter. One day Muawiyah sent food and money to them. The daughter received and was eating. Father entered. The daughter was hungry. Father said, I know that you are hungry, but a haram munch has dread effects. Muawiyah wants the hate of Ali in us. Now this is that father, he knew the consequences of a haram meal. Now father is someone whose slogan was Aliyun khairul bashar man aba faqad kafar. Father used to say that Aliyun khairul bashar, the best of men, and whosoever denies it faqad kafar is faithless. So he doesn't want that food and that munch, which is haram, to get into the bellies of his children, because that is how the hate in one, it ignites and stems in an individual. So how do you support deen? That is one of the ways, that keep away all the haram, follow the manual that was sent, and be with the Imam. How do we support deen? First, know that deen, have that ma'rifah of deen, practice that deen, and then save it. Now save it first on me and for the generations to come after me. That is saving that deen. And the other thing that we learn from the Imams alayhimus salam and our ulama who have followed the teachings of the Imam is that get your deen checked on and off. In the presence of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, Hakam bin Utaybah, he entered. He says that I have come to check my deen. This is what I believe. He says, okay. Imam said, all right, what do you believe? He says, Inni la uhibbukum wa uhibbu man yuhibbukum. Imam, I love you, and I love everyone who loves you. Inni la uhillu halalakum wa uharrimu haramakum. Whatsoever you said halal, I also say halal. I abide by it. Whatever you have said haram, I also say it's haram and I put it aside. وَأَنْتَظِرُوا أَمْرَكُمْ, and I'm waiting for your command. This is all my deen, Yabna Rasulullah. Imam says, excellent, very good. For this faith that you have, at the time of your death, you will see that Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, my grandfather Ali alayhi salam, my Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, all of them, they will greet you and be rest assured, be happy that the heaven is also guaranteed for you, only for that simple belief system that you have. He was overjoyed. He said, Imam, can you repeat that again? Imam repeated the same sentence. That is, you will be, heaven is certain for you. You will be greeted by my grandfather, by my father, Rasulullah, and my Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Imam Hassan, and Imam Hussein, and then the heaven is also guaranteed for you. He was overjoyed. And he requested the Imam to repeat. Now, dua to protect deen, what do? A person to Imam al-Sadiq, he says, I fear I die faithless. Help me, Ibn Rasulullah. You help me. Tell me what to do. Imam says, these simple du'as that we have. One of them is, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا وَبِالْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا وَبِمُحَمَّدٍ نَبِيًّا وَبِالْقُرْآنِ بَلَاغًا. Or these taqibat that we have after the Fajr prayers. There is a small dua, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا وبمحمد نبيا وبالإسلام دينا وبالقرآن كتابا وبالكعبة قبلة. That I believe in all of them. That Rasulullah is the Prophet and Islam is my deen, Quran is the book, Kaaba is the Qibla of mine, and Ali is the Imam, And all of the Imams, one after the other, I believe in all of them. بهم أئمة فرضني لهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. You also make them happy with me, and you are mighty and you can do all that. So du'as, they help in keeping this deen firm. And as it was mentioned earlier, that du'a ghariq, which is a simple one, and all of you definitely know that, which is Ya Allahu Ya Rahmanu Ya Rahim Ya Muqallib al-Qulub Thabbit Qalbi ala Deenik. One of the other ways how we can protect our deen, and then with that we can be in the service and support of the Imam, is by this Dua Adila. Dua Adila is also a reminder of faith, and then when you recite it whilst we are alive and we submit it to Allah, that this is my faith, God, when I will be in need and dying and I will be departing from this world, I want you to return this faith of mine that I have safe deposited before you. And that towards the end we say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-adilati and al-maut, that Allah protect me from switching from haqq to batil, especially at the time of death. Now this switching from haqq to batil, it's dangerous. It can happen to anyone, because shaitan, he comes in full swing and in full force, says, not only himself, with all his descendants, he comes with the full force to somehow switch this person who is dying and switch him away from deen and die on kufr. Fudail is a muallim akhlaq. He says that one of my students was on his deathbed, and I went to him and I said to him, repeat La ilaha illallah. He couldn't. And then he says, I believe in Quran. He didn't accept that too, and he never repeated, and he died faithless. Whatever I said to him, he denied. Then after his death, I saw him, and then when I inquired, what happened? Why was it that you were one of the best of my students? Why did you die faithless? Why couldn't you say La ilaha illallah? When I spoke to you about Quran, you denied it. Everything that I said, you rejected. Says that I used to defame others when I was alive, and I was a gossip monger, and I used to drink once a year. That was the reason why that deen was seized away from him, was taken away from him. So we have to safeguard this deen, protect it. For example, if it is a journey that I have to travel, and I know that if I go there I will lose my deen, don't go. Deen is more important. So supporting deen requires saving deen first, and one of the ways how this deen can be saved is by marriage. It says, ittaqizul ahl fa innahu arzaq lakum. Get married, that will save you, and that will provide you every rizq as well, in addition to that the iman, which will be 50% secure as a result of that deen. Now when we see the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, so many joined him. Among those who joined him on the 9th of Muharram are Qasit, Muqsit and Kardus. Now they are the three sons of Zuhair who were living in Kufa. Now the father, and they also were among the Ashab of Amir al-Mu'mineen, companions in the Battle of Siffin. Also they were supporting Amir al-Mu'mineen after him. They were among the supporters and companions of Imam Mujtaba, and after that also they joined when they got the message that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is in Karbala. All three of them, they rushed and they sacrificed themselves for Abu Abdullah. That what we learn from Quran is that loving the Ahlul Bayt, it's good, it's wajib. Being faithful is wajib. Supporting them is also wajib. Now this support that I will be rendering to deen, to my imam, how should it be? Any kind of support? Says that being swift, fast in supporting deen, that will increase the value of that good that you will be doing. Whoever does good, acknowledge it and accept it. Besides the suggestions and complaints you will be having regarding whoever, says acknowledgement also should exist. For example, there's this ayah in Surah Al Imran says, لَيْسُوا سَوَاء من أهل الكتاب أمة قائمة يتلون آيات الله وآناء الليل وهم يسجدون. Regarding the Jews, it isn't as such that when you want to talk about them, say that all of them were ruthless. No. Quran says that despite the bad also that was in them, but here mentions and acknowledges the good that was in them. And says, Laysu siwa, they are not all alike. Among them, min ahlil kitab, you will see ummatun qa'imatun, there are people who are upright. What is the beauty in them? Says yatlun al-kitab, they recite the book, they are obedient, they perform sajdas, they perform amr bil ma'ruf, nahya anil munkar, they invite people to good, they forbid people from bad. And one of the major qualities that Quran mentions over here is that yusari'una fil khairat. Yusari'un means they are swift, they rush. When it comes to good, they are fast in that. Yusari'una fil khairat. Now this yusari'una fil khairat that was mentioned in this ayah, maybe this is meant by hablim min Allah. Habl min Allah means the cord that is from Allah, they cling on to that cord. And what is that cord? In that cord you find obedience, recitation of the divine book, you have sajdas, you have amr bil ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar, and yusari'una fil khairat. That is fast and rushing towards deen. So, messages that we get from this ayah is that accept and acknowledge the good in others. In addition to the suggestions and complaints, you will be having min ahlil kitab ummatun qa'ima. One of the ways to invite to haqq is by mentioning their good. Min ahlil kitab ummatun qa'imatun. Worship, it requires effort, it requires seriousness, it requires love, it requires readiness. And that says ummatun qa'imatun. These are the upright nation. Now reciting His word, that is the book of Allah, all of that is very good. Sajda is very good. When you perform sajdas, when you recite His book, it means that you are praising the existence of Allah. Yatluna ayatillah ana al-layl, that is throughout the night. That is what they do. Reciting and sajdas are establishing the command of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Now one of the other things we learn from this ayah is that night in particular towards Fajr, Sahar which is known, that is the best time to supplicate, ana al-layl. The best worship also, wahum yasjudun. The best form of worship. Allah Ta'ala to Rasulullah says that, Ahmad, do you know when a person draws closer to me, comes closer to me, near me? He says, no, Ya Rasul, Ya Allah. Allah says, إِذَا كَانَ جَائِعًا أَوْ سَاجِدًا. When he is hungry, that is in the state of fasting, and when he is in the state of sajda. That is the point where Allah Ta'ala loves the most that His servant has come to Him. So Quran has mentioned these qualities of these people. Among them is yusari'una fil khairat. That is, when there is khair, they rush. And it was mentioned in the opening of this session, Baqiyatullah khayrun lakum in kuntum mu'minin. Baqiyatullah, the Imam of age. Khayrun lakum is good for you in kuntum mu'minin, if you are the believers. So Imam al-Asr in Karbala is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Yusari'una fil khayrat, rushing towards serving him, is the best of khair that was at that time. And that was rendered by the 72 of the best of servants of Allah, best of companions that were given to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And in the following ayah says that أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. They are among the Salihin, the noble. So Iman means worship plus tilawat plus amr bil ma'ruf plus nahya anil munkar plus fasting, doing the good, and then says أُولَٰئِكَ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. They are from the Salihin. And someone who does all this good, وَمَا يَفْعَلُ مِنْ خَيْرٍ, someone who does this khair, فَلَنْ يُكْفَرُوهُ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِالْمُتَّقِينَ, whatever good they do, they will not go unappreciated for it, and Allah knows well the God-wary, the muttaqeen, the noble. Now when we look into the Masa'ib of Karbala, one of the statements that we have from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam says, Ya Fatima, kullu aynin baqiyatun yawm al-qiyamah illa aynun bakat ala Musab al-Husayn فإنها ضاحكة مستبشرة بنعيم جنة. Fatima, every eye will be crying on the day of judgment. Exception is an eye that has wept in the sorrow and griefs of Hussein. This eye will be happy and will be blessed with all the blessings of the heaven. In all authentic historians, they have mentioned this, that on the eve of Ashura, Imam, he congregated his companions in or near the tent that was named عند قرب الماء. قرب الماء means there was a tent in which the water vessels were placed. And the heat of that day of Ashura was such, and the water also had stopped. So there wasn't any water, but this tent in which these water vessels were placed, it was so hot and the children were so thirsty, they used to come to this tent and lift their shirts and lie down on that on the floor of that tent, because it was a little bit cooler, because the water vessels were placed there just to feel the coolness, and that thirst is not felt. So here, a tent exclusively to store water, and he delivered that famous sermon over here. What is that? Says, allegiance, bay'at, which is my right, I remove it, I take it away. My brothers, my friends, my companions, and all my members of my family, no binding on you, and you are free to go, you can leave. Make the best from this darkness of this night and leave. I am happy with you all, no complaint I have, no one better than you given to me. May that be the companions or the Ahlul Bayt. As Imam was delivering this talk, all in one voice said, is that possible, Ya Aba Abdullah? And what reply do we give to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam? What reply? And where will that loyalty go? Where will that wafa go? Where will that friendship and kindness and love that we have to you go if we leave? They all spoke, and seeing their loyalty, one is amazed. One said, if I was killed and brought back to life, killed in the worst of deaths and killings, yet we will not leave you. One said, we free ourselves from here and go and get into another captivity of being away from you, that is not possible. The first to speak was Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam, and following him the Bani Hashim, they spoke. Imam, he changed the topic and spoke about the incidents the next day. They would unfold the battle, their shahadat, etc. One of those who spoke up here is Qasim ibn al-Hasan, the 13-year-old yatim of Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam. He says that Imam on the eve of Ashura says to Qasim, tomorrow you will be killed, Qasim. To the martyrs he said, you will be killed. Qasim said, what about me, uncle? Imam says, كيف الموت عندك? How do you find death, Qasim? He says, أحلى من العسل, sweeter than honey. Imam says, a great bala is fast approaching. Not just you, but your brother, your Abdullah Radhi Ali Asghar alayhi salam, that infant will also be killed. Now Imam Mujtaba, on his deathbed, when he was poisoned by his wife, on his deathbed, he calls his children and all of them very young. Qasim was about 3 years old at that time. Says to Qasim, 10 years from now, on a day that is Ashura, if you hear the call, Hal min nasirin yansuruni, run in the service of your uncle, and he is the Imam of your time. Tell him I am at your disposal, your aid, your supporter, and your uncle will not accept. You plead, you cry. And he would not want you to be slaughtered in front of his eyes. He says that, Qasim, I want you to plead, I want you to cry. He fell on his knees. Ask him to allow you. And his other brother, Abdullah, who was 1 year, he's also listening to all this. On the day of Ashura, he comes to his uncle Hussein and says, your death, it's tough on me. He falls on his knees. He picked up his nephew and then hugs him, kisses him. The two cried for a long time, and then he says, Uncle, allow me to go. Allow me to go. He wouldn't accept. Comes to his aunt Zainab, says, where is my mother? She shows where the mother is. And he comes to his mother and say, Uncle is not accepting. He will not allow me to go to the battle. She says, wait. Comes, and from her stuff she finds a little note and says, go and give this to your uncle. Brings that note and gives it to the uncle, says, this is a note for you. Imam reads that note. That is from Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam, that on his deathbed he had written this and given it to his wife to be given to Imam Hussein on this day of Ashura, which said, Hussein, my brother, don't let my son Qasim plead so much. Let him go. Let him go and fight. Now here, over here, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein submits to his brother's note, and here Qasim, he heads off towards the battlefront. And on the day of Ashura, I do not know any companions better than these companions that were given to him. No Ahlul Bayt better than them. Here Qasim, he sets off. There is no armor that could fit the size of this young child. No sword that could be his size. No footwear that could be given, provided to this young soldier. Reporter, he says that I saw his footwear untied. It was the left foot. A young, beautiful boy, like a radiant moon, says farewell, and suddenly there was an ambush, there was an attack. Imam rushes to the front, and there, how quick Imam responds and comes to the spot, and when he comes there, it was all dust, and one couldn't see anything. It was, what he saw was just these swords going up, swords coming down, and when the dust does settle, Imam sees Qasim fallen and collapsed. Imam holds him, puts his head on his lap, says, pity, you called your uncle for help, and how helpless I was, and I could not help. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إلهي بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها، يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم أحينا حياة محمد وآل محمد وأمتنا ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة محمد وآل محمد وفي الآخرة شفاعة محمد وآل محمد. اللهم عجل في فرج محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.